Welcome to 1856 First Church, Pella, Iowa podcast. It's another beautiful Tuesday afternoon in beautiful downtown Pella. Everybody who's out there, thanks for listening to the 1856 podcast. And Breanne, how are you today?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's hard not to have a good day with the weather. It's gorgeous.
It is beautiful. It's a little bit yo-yo-esque once in a while. Mm-hmm. High one day, low another day. Mm-hmm. But we've had a good stretch here for a few days, so we'll take it in. And I notice as I walk around the town of Pella, I see the tulips peeking their little heads out of the dirt.
I wondered.
So hopefully that won't happen too fast, because as far as I can tell from my calendar, tulip time is still about 7 weeks away.
Yeah, hopefully they don't pop up too soon.
That is correct. And this is when my wife begins her battle with the deer.
Yes, this is true. I was excited because the beautiful weather allowed me to get my Christmas decorations outside put away and my spring ones put out.
That's awesome. I knew you had it set as a goal to take your Christmas decorations down before St. Patrick's Day. So you must have a lot more room in your living room now.
I do. And I love just the change of the seasons and just changing the decor.
It is beautiful. That is one thing I rarely think about, decor.
Yeah, I enjoy it. My kids always like to participate. At least my younger ones do. I had little Cullen, who's 2, who followed me around all day on Sunday afternoon and kept saying, "Yes, Mom. Yes, Mom." I'm like, if I could just get my teenagers to say that.
That's cool.
It was very sweet. Well, we got to do something fun on Sunday. We got to bring the podcast live to Sunday morning, didn't we?
Sunday morning announcements. It was fun. What a great service, huh? What a great amount of celebrations that we had.
Oh, it was so nice. We celebrated new partners in mission.
Yep, and our tech students that were here.
Mm-hmm. I don't think most of them were awake. I was impressed.
Yeah, tech was a wonderful thing, and I hope all of our listeners know what a blessing it is to have it at our church. I was here for the afternoon program, which was when parents come back and other people who support the kids. Mm-hmm. They're basically invited in to be of support to these students. And unfortunately, I had to leave early and go back to my life group, but just so proud of what happens here this weekend. So proud that God is at work. So proud that these kids have had the guts to come. And I know that there were some many powerful testimonies that were given. And of course, I'm a little biased towards our own kids that took part in tech and the beautiful things that God is doing. So what a great weekend. And I got to give them credit. Because Thursday, the leaders come in and they literally transform our church to a tech event center. It's like unrecognizable. So by the time the actual students come as guests on Friday, I don't even recognize my own church. As a matter of fact, it's an obstacle course to get to my office. And then by the time I leave on Friday with all the volunteers that are here and all the students that are here, I'm just thinking, okay, have a great time. And then I come on Sunday morning and our church is all cleaned up. It doesn't smell like a bunch of youth who haven't showered in 2 days. Even the bathroom that's by my office, I expect it to smell like a beach outhouse, but it's all good. It's all good. They do a magnificent job at cleaning up for themselves.
They do. Yeah, I know my daughter worked this time, and she said they slept in the sanctuary. And I was impressed. When we came to church, we were here early, and there was just you wouldn't have known they were even here. It was impressive.
Many people have slept in the sanctuary over the years. It's very conducive to that. However, most people do it sitting up.
Yes, it was very impressive. I noticed that everything was kind of topsy-turvy. They paper I came to help serve. They have a meal and help serve one night. Yeah, they have the windows and the doors papered, and there was the chairs that were in the prayer cove were actually out in the lobby. And yeah, came Sunday morning, and you wouldn't even have known. So, really thankful for the leaders that kind of take time out of their. Well, really, they prep for this for leading up to it. So they a lot of extra time besides the weekend.
It's a big thing. I remember when my own boys were in it, and my oldest son in particular, he after he went to tech, then you get to serve in tech, and he just loved it. And tech for us, even though we lived in the Los Angeles area, it was 4 hours away from us. So they'd go up for meetings and up in that area. So they'd drive the 4 hours and then come back. And then that weekend they were gone for the whole weekend. But it was just a delight, and we're so grateful. Anyway, what else we got going on, Breanne?
Well, other ways that people can serve would be there's a mission trip informational meeting this coming Sunday, the 16th of March at 11 o'clock in Brian's office. We're looking at going to Uganda as a heart mission trip, not to necessarily build things, but just looking at late summer, early August. So if people are wanting more information, they should attend that.
Yeah, it's going to be a great trip. And, hopefully we'll be taking about 5 to 7 people. That's about all we can handle because of the transportation over there. And when we say it's a heart trip, we want your hearts to be open to what it is to be in a third world nation. So we really want to encourage people who perhaps have never gone to a third world nation. I went for my first time to South Africa and Swaziland in 2003, and I'll just say it transformed my heart. And you have to be there. You have to smell the smells. You taste the tastes. You see so much. And I remember when we went with World Vision, and they said, you're not here to do anything. You're not here to fix anything. You're not here to build anything. Basically, you're not here to do anything to make you feel good about yourself. Because sometimes that's why people go on mission trips. They see themselves in some way superior, and they're here to help somebody who's inferior, that doesn't have the resources or doesn't have what it takes to do what they need. Now, they don't go into it with that attitude. They're not saying that, but they'll feel better. So I'm not against people going off and serving, but I really don't want to do things for people that they could do for themselves, because in so doing, we take away part of their dignity. So we went there and we just observed. And I remember there was times that I wanted to do something. I wanted to, if I could pull out my checkbook and write this person a check because they were so impoverished. But that's what breaks your heart. Yeah. And the way you're going to make great change. And I remember World Vision told us this at the time. They said, when we come into an area, I think this is still their strategy, we spend 26 years in this specific area. 26 years. Because we're not a flash in the pan. Okay, we're gonna spend this time, and we will always see transformation occur in this amount of time. So the beautiful thing about our relationship with Pastor Samuel, I'm grateful. I mean, I think we've been in a relationship with him for about 5 years. Last year, I added up, we've given him somewhere in excess of $60,000. That's a lot of money. He is beyond grateful for that. But the fact of the matter is, if we're going to spend 26 years with him, we've still got 19 to go. And that's what really, and the more we feel what he's experiencing, the more we see, the more passionate we'll be not only about Uganda as a mission, but really the mission to the world. So hoping for 5 to 8 people to go. And if you're interested, come on Sunday.
Yeah. They also interviewed Pastor Samuel. So if you want to look back at our episodes, you can listen to Pastor Samuel and more about his mission.
Good man.
Yeah. Well, and last but not least, we don't want to forget that we have the Seder Feast coming up. And that is going to be April 6th at 6 p.m. You can purchase tickets online or stop in the office. You want to give a brief overview of what the Seder Feast is? Yeah,
it's a Passover feast with Jesus in it. And I was just talking about this morning in my class on Leviticus. We're literally at the point in Leviticus in chapter 23 where we're talking about the 7 feasts, one of them of which is Passover. And I said this morning, when these feasts were introduced to the people, of course, Passover had been introduced when Israel left Egypt, so they already knew about that. But when all the feasts were introduced, the people did what they were told to do, but they had no idea it was pointing to Jesus. They had no idea that there was implications in the future. Now we get to see that. And so that's what's so fascinating. So last year we had about 140 people come, of which was great because, we like to fill up the room. We make food for everybody. It's a great night. So tickets are already selling. So come and purchase one. And we look forward to it.
It's great for families too. Don't forget that. Families. We brought our family the last 2 times that we've hosted here. It's every other year. And it's fun because they can kind of make a mess. Bill does a great job.
Yeah, and we have childcare for the really small kids. So yeah, we try to take care of you. So that's great. April 6th.
Awesome. Well, you said that nerd 7 again. I just think that's a good lead in because we're still in the 7 trumpets in Revelation. We're in chapter 12, and you only went through the first 6 verses, and that filled an entire sermon. But here you titled it The War of Ages 1, the Prelude. So I would assume that we have more to talk about.
Yeah, so this is the War of the Ages. This is the prelude. This is kind of the introduction to it. And then there's a war in heaven, and then there's a war on earth. And so as I outlined some of the wars that Satan has waged over the years, Satan waged a war in heaven and then brought it to earth. This is ultimately going to come to a culmination one day, and Jesus will be put on the throne. So what we're getting here in this passage of Scripture, starting in Revelation 12, is a picture of what has been happening kind of all along that we've been talking about in Revelation, but we're getting it a little bit through Satan's perspective. And he will go down at the end. And we're very encouraged about that. But this is a significant battle.
So why did Satan originally fall?
Well, all we know from the Scriptures, it was pride. It was pride. It appeared that Satan had a special standing. We know that there's somewhat of a hierarchy amongst the angels. So to think that Satan, Lucifer, had somewhat of a standing before the Lord, what initiated this pride? What got him riled up? I mean, we can only speculate, so there's no use spending time on that. But the fact of the matter is there was pride that went on. He wanted something that he couldn't have. And there was a battle that raged, and then he was swept out of heaven, and 1/3 of the demons, the angels, went with him.
Yeah. So because of his fall, what did this cause for the rest of mankind?
Well, suddenly when he fell and he was kicked out of heaven, what then happened is he's now on the prowl on earth. So here we've got humanity on earth. We've got Adam and Eve. So Satan then started his mission, which is to lie, steal, and destroy. So he didn't succeed with doing an overthrow of paradise in heaven. So he's coming down to earth, and he's going to work on the paradise on earth. And we don't know exactly how much time took place before this encounter happened in the Garden of Eden. I mean, it could have been a few days. It could have been a few years. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But the fact of the matter is Satan from the beginning was plotting against now God's image bearers. These were special. Satan knew that. They were different than all the wildlife that he was seeing around there. This was man and woman now, and I am going to take them out. He didn't succeed in heaven. He did succeed on earth.
Yeah.
And just so you know, then the fall came, humanity sins, and then, of course, all creation is affected with that.
Yeah. On Sunday, you had said it shouldn't be a surprise to us that Satan hates us and he wants us to sin. He wants to tempt us, but he can only do what God allows. You had just said that Satan is described as the angel of light. Why is that?
Well, it's all behind. It's all rooted in deceit. So sometimes, people have this view of the devil like he looks really ugly and red and drips with blood or holds a pitchfork in his hand. And so, I'm going to recognize the devil when I see him and I'm going to flee. Well, that's not how the devil works. The devil works. He's alluring. He is this angel of light that is always going to be deceptive. And so wouldn't it be nice if every time Satan reared his face in our lives through temptations, that we'd immediately hear something like the old Lost in Space episode, warning, warning, Breanne Patel, warning. No, that's not the way it works, okay? What happens is we get tugged in. We get tugged in because it looks good, okay? And so Satan wants to destroy us. My wife always puts peanut butter on the mouse traps.
I wondered where this was going. Yes, continue.
And if all the mice sees is the peanut butter, and doesn't look at anything else, the mice goes there and it's over. The devil works the same way. And you think about some of the biggest temptations that we can face. We're only looking at one thing. We're not seeing the implications that can happen. Just one thing. We see the peanut butter, and the devil loves to see the trap.
Yeah, good analogy. Sunday, you had also kind of talked us through that there's multiple battles that will have happened and will happen. So the first one you had mentioned was the heavenly paradise one. The second battle is on earth, and then we have a battle yet to come with the great tribulation here in Revelation. And those are the three main ones, correct, that we had? Okay. So then you kind of walked us back through with the seventh trumpet that is blown, which leads to the seven bowls, which chapters 12 through 14 is when we see things that have happened, but from a different vantage point. And so here you mentioned and reassured us that God will carry out his purposes, but Satan will be there to thwart those. So John here is now starting to introduce us to what you called as characters to the story. And so the first character I wanted to ask you about is, who is this woman? And is it an actual woman?
Well, the woman is a symbol in this. So exactly what John saw, we don't know, except he says, I saw a woman. But it would appear in there's symbols in Revelation, and then there's actual things that he sees. Now, we've talked about this before when he saw things that looked like locusts coming out of the abyss, okay? So he couldn't identify them perfectly, but they were something that looked like locusts. They were real. They were actually there. So now he sees a woman. So exactly what that looked like to him, I don't know. It's just that we can tell from the story that the woman appears to represent the remnant of Israel, that faithful remnant of Israel. They are longing for the Messiah. They are longing for the second coming, okay? This is the remnant.
Good. And so then the scripture talks about how she is clothed with the sun and the moon is under her feet. Again, are these symbolic as well? And what do they mean?
You know, when you start seeing imagery like this, and of course our study Bibles help us with this because oftentimes there'll be a little reference there. Well, in this particular case, it goes back to Genesis 37. This is something that Joseph dreamed, and then we have meaning of that. So, and of course, Joseph is the son of Jacob, whose name happened to be Israel. So, you know, we suddenly see 12 stars, we see the sun and the moon, and we see really essentially the glory of Israel represented here, okay? Which leads us more into the fact that this is the faithful remnant of Israel.
Yeah. And it also that's talking about kind of giving some personification to this, where they're saying birth pains and the agony of giving birth. And so as you know, as women, they can kind of relate to the anticipation of later in the few more verses where she gave birth to a male child. But before that, John sees another character, and he has here is the dragon. So again, who is the dragon? And is the dragon symbolic, or is this a literal dragon?
Well, the dragon, if you imagine a dragon in your mind, you know, this fire-breathing creature, well, that in fact is symbolic. It's representing someone. Well, the dragon is Satan, okay? So, you know, Satan appeared as a serpent in the Garden of Eden. And so now this is the imagery given to Satan in this. So here, John, whatever he's seeing, maybe it looked like a dragon, something. Who is that? That's Satan. Oh, okay, Satan. Satan and his armies that are there. And so then, of course, as the story continues, the dragon appeared poised to do something. And well, the scripture says poised to devour that child when it came out. Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense that would be Satan.
Yeah. In your knowledge of the scripture, one question that came out for me is there's a description here where it talks about red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, on his head, and then 7 diadems. And so I thought it was interesting that the word 7 is used here in relationship to the dragon, or in this case, Satan. So in your knowledge of the scriptures, why would 7 be used? Because I've heard of other numbers that is used to describe Satan.
Yeah, you're right, because we'll go to 666. That'll be, something that we talk about at another time. So what we see here is that there's power and authority that's there. There's power and authority that have been assigned to the dragon, and we see that throughout history. So people will speculate here as to what all these numbers mean. They look at these kingdoms, and like I said on Sunday, we have these kingdoms. We have the kingdom of Egypt that God used to chasten his people, and then ultimately he delivered his people from Egypt. You look at things like the Assyrian Empire. He took the northern kingdom off with that, the Babylonian Empire. We look at the Medo-Persian Empire. We look at the Grecian Empire. We look at the Roman Empire, and we look at the empire of the Antichrist still to come. Well, that adds up to 7. So that makes a lot of sense to a lot of commentators that, okay, this is where that 7 comes in. God uses those 7 empires to accomplish his purposes. Okay? So God is the one associated with the number 7, and it appears that he's using those 7 empires to accomplish his purposes. And in each of those empires, while there might have been good things that come out, like, with the Roman Empire, it was a common language, many roads, everything, Pax Romana. But ultimately, Christians were really, really persecuted during that time too. But when did the church most grow? In the history of the church, from the time of Christ after he ascended into heaven, so kind of like 0, we might say, to 325 AD. Worst persecution in the history, and that's when it grew most. So God's purposes are being carried out.
So a time of sharpening and growth.
Yeah.
Interesting. So why is the dragon ready to devour this male child?
Well, ever since Genesis 3, and God put this plan in place, this redemptive plan that was ultimately going to crush the head of that serpent, Satan wants to snuff it out. We always have to remember Satan isn't all-knowing. Sometimes people equate Satan with like almost God, but not quite. No, that's not the case. So you got to figure that Satan is in every instance trying to snuff out that which God has deemed important. So you look at Israel. I mean, after God said, I'm going to invest in Abraham. Okay. He makes an eternal covenant with Abraham. Okay. Well, that's where Satan's going to focus his attention. He's going to do all he can to get rid of Israel. He's still doing it today. And then Jesus comes. So they go through all this stuff in the Old Testament. Satan had to think many times, I got him. Assyria's taking him off. I've got him. And then Babylon takes him off. I got him. But God always saves a remnant. He always saves a remnant. So then we enter into the story, this vision that John has, and this woman, Israel, is going to give birth now to this child. And the devil is ready. I mean, he's read about this. The same scriptures that we read about. Unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, all these things. And he's going to be ready to devour it. And boy, when that baby was born, Satan went into quick motion, right? Through Herod. Herod got all paranoid by this little diaper-clad baby, and so he has all the babies 2 years old and younger killed. That's completely Satan. Satan's always trying to get in, and the other examples, they're in Nazareth, his hometown. The religious leaders and whatnot, they're leading a stampede. They're going to throw him off a cliff. Satan is always thinking, I got him now. I got him. Even when he was on the cross, Satan had to think, finally. He should have known you can't keep that man down.
Yeah.
So, that's Satan's, and he is now, when Jesus went into heaven, this was in our story too. We talked about the incarnation, and the other bookend will be the coronation of Christ. In the middle is the exaltation, not exactly in the middle, but go with me here. That's when he ascended into heaven and he is exalted. And before he went up to heaven, what did he say? All authority on heaven and earth has been given to me. Okay, here's your marching orders now, Breanne.
Mm-hmm.
Go and make disciples of all nations.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what our marching orders.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact of the matter, Jesus also said in his earthly ministry, he says that the church is going to continue to go forward. The church is going to be prevailing. The church is not going to be taken over by hell, but the church is going to continue to move forward. But in spite of that, Satan will try to destroy the church. And has he been successful? Many churches have gone down. Many churches.
So I guess I'm going to ask the question that I think most people are wondering. So if Satan has read the book, like we have access to the book, why does he keep trying if he knows this, what the ending will be?
You think, why doesn't he give up and convert or something?
Right.
Yeah. It's called evil. And it's called just wanting to destroy. And you think of the presence of evil in this world today, that, how could people do such things? How could people do such things when they know they're going to get caught? I mean, they always get caught.
Right.
Why do people keep doing those things? I mean, from physical harm to other people to stealing. Why do they do it? It's evil. The heart gets blinded by evil. And, I just got to believe in so many cases, and maybe you've had this in your own life, you can remember things that you did, and then you receive the consequences for it, and somebody could say, didn't you think that was going to happen? Well, now I realize it.
Right.
But yeah, Satan lives to destroy.
So you can almost get hyper-focused on something and totally disregard what's happening outside the blinders.
The reality, they're going to lose. They're going to lose. They're going to lose.
It's good. Well, finishing into the chapter here at the end, not the end of the chapter, excuse me, the last part of what you talked about on Sunday is the woman here fled into the wilderness where she has a place prepared by God in which she was to be nourished for 1,260 days. Well, that number is very familiar because we talked about that last time. Well, not last time, I guess. Maybe it was a couple. It's back in chapter, where did we do that? I wrote it down. Now I'm looking. But we went back to chapter 11. Here it is, where the Lord, granted the authority of the two witnesses to prophesy for 1,260 days. So is there a tie or a link to why the woman was nourished for that same amount of time?
Yeah, this is a fascinating passage. And, you can't help but take this literally, because why would there be such great specificity with these numbers? So if we go back and read the book of Zechariah, Zechariah has a lot of prophecies based upon what's going to happen at the end of times. One of those prophecies is how, the people, Jerusalem is going to be besieged and God's people are going to go out. They're going to go out. They're going to go east. And so exactly where they go, we don't know, but they're going to go. And then we read about this in the book of Revelation. And so God is going to take care of his people 1,260 days. So somehow for 3.5 years, as Jerusalem is really being attacked and all this stuff is going on, judgment is coming upon it, God is going to nurture them. How's he going to nurture them? I don't know. All I know is God nurtured his people in the wilderness for 40 years. So certainly I know God can take care of them. But at the end of this, of which we'll get to someday, these people will cry out, "Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." They will be calling on Jesus to come. And Jesus is going to then come out of heaven riding that white horse on the greatest rescue mission, the final battle, boom, psh, it's going to be over. Okay? And so that's very exciting. So, but we ended the sermon with this. Look at what God has always said, Israel, I'm not going to leave you. I'm not going to forsake you. Okay? And those people who want to say, oh, no, God's long since forgotten Israel. God replaced Israel with the church. Oh, I beg of you to reconsider that. Okay? Because when God made an eternal covenant with Abraham, which was with Israel, God has to keep his promises. So I believe God is going to keep his promise to Israel. This is a fantastic passage to remember how important Israel is. So however many people that are leaving that place at that time, God will preserve them and they will be nourished and they will be the beloved of God.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you described the importance of Israel. But my last question for you today is, what is the main takeaway for our listeners from Revelation 12, 1 through 6 that you covered Sunday?
Well, I'll just sum it up with just two things to make it simple. Number one, we know that there's a battle going on. Please, folks, never underestimate the enemy. I mean, seriously, a lot of us are very sports conscious. If you're on any sport team, whether it's volleyball, basketball, football, or baseball, you must study your opponent. You must study your opponent. You will not be successful unless you study your opponent. So you need to know how to go on the offense against your opponent. And so what do? You study their defense. And you need to be on the defense against your opponent. So what do? You study their offense. It's just logic. But some people go around in la-la land when they think of the devil. How's the devil going to go after us? So I could look at you, Breanne, as well as I could look at any other couple. The Lord's coming for your family. Do all you can to divorce-proof your marriage. Do all you can to continue to aggressively raise your kids in the Lord, because they are going to be lied to all the time out there, okay? If I don't say that to you, I'm just irresponsible as a pastor. And so this is something that we need to learn from this passage. If we can't get a picture of the devil in this passage waiting there to devour a baby, I mean, you think about that. What person would, this is gross to even think about, but a woman giving birth with a wolf sitting right next waiting to eat the baby? I mean, get out of there, okay? So the devil's out after you. We can combat the devil with every tool that the Lord has given to us. That's why we do want to divorce-proof our church. That's why we want to build strong, faith-driven families, because that's going to be our way. So that's one thing. And number two, I just think it's so important to remember God's promises. If he remembers his promise to Israel, he's going to remember his promise to us, not to leave us or forsake us. There's going to be times of discouragement. He's not going to leave us or forsake us. He'll be there right to the end. I'm going to go over in a little bit. Phyllis Heemster, our dear sister, she's still alive over there in the Comfort House, but this has been quite a picture. Yesterday I went over there and I walked in there. They had just gotten her up. That's how good she was. I mean, she's near heaven. Okay, let me just say that. But they said, yeah, we just had her sitting on the side of the bed. She's laying back down now. We cleaned her up, moved her around, et cetera, and so on. So I go in there. I sit next to her. She turns her head towards me, and just in only a way that Phyllis can do, she said, just a short prayer today. She just wanted a short one. I thought, wow, have I been praying too long? Anyway, I look at her, and I prayed this even. The Lord is with her. The Lord was with her in her mother's womb, and the Lord is with her now as she's on the doorstep of heaven. This is our God. He doesn't leave us. And so we must take that. And that is why she, in the midst of her body literally dying, literally shutting down, she has hope. That's our God.
Yeah.
Take that to the bank.
Praise the Lord. Well, so you're taking us through this. So thank you for taking us through this in small sections at a time to digest. This Sunday, where are we at this Sunday?
The War of the Ages, Part 2. Okay,
right.
we're going to, and it continues. I'm glad that I'm doing it in 3 sections so that people can understand it and then apply it to their lives. It's going to be a beautiful Sunday. We have more Partners in Mission coming in this week.
Oh, great.
It's going to be a great Sunday to celebrate God's goodness once again. Hope you're all there. Breanne, what time is it again?
It starts at 9:30.
And we get a full night's sleep this week, right?
Yes, I hope so.
Amen to that. God bless you, Breanne. Hey, everybody, thanks for listening. Hope to see you next week.